do these things. First, write down everything you know. Everything you know about your product, about the problem you're solving, about the users who will use your product. Mark down which of those are assumptions, because assumptions are the mother. Yes. Very important step. Do not skip it. Prioritize by opportunity. So look at those assumptions and see where the biggest opportunity lies. What is that area that you don't know but has a lot of potential? Start there. And 4, prepare great questions. So once you do all of this, then you design the experiments. So experiments is another word where we replaced research with. So now we do experiments. We do A/B testing, for example, as an experiment. We do all kinds of stuff where we measure user experience, where we measure data, and we call it experiments. And why did I say here experiments? Because every experiment, every test, every single thing starts with a good question. Because great question leads to great answers, and that leads to great products. Whereas bad questions lead to useless answers, and this is what we really don't want, and wasted time and money. So, my appeal to you, let's go and make questions great again. Thank you.
Thank you, Amedea. It's not an easy task to be the first one on the first public knowledge event sharing a knowledge session to everyone, but we're not quite done yet, are we?
No, not yet.
So the next step is the Q&A session. And I have this cube that you see on the screen as well in my hands. I'm a pretty tall guy, so I think I'm going to see if you have your hands raised. And I'm going to try and do my best. I've played handball semi-professionally for almost 10 years. So I'm going to be able to try out my throw once more after a while. So all of the questions that you have for Amedea, Nate is going to turn up the lights a little bit so that I can see. And then I'm going to throw you the ball and you can ask away.
Don't be afraid. I don't expect great questions right now. There are no bad questions at this phase.
Amedea, you've been talking about stupid questions for 35 minutes, and now you expect people to be...
No, but those are for the users, for the customers, for the stakeholders, and of course, where we learn, there are no stupid questions.
A candidate at the back.
Woo!
I told you, semi-professionally. There's a reason.
What was the worst assumption you made in your career?
Actually, what I know the answer to that one. So when I was a very young designer and I started working at that healthcare company, we created kind of a also electronic record. And my assumption is that everybody knows what two-factor authentication is. So we put two-factor authentication, and those were like, imagine that was 6-7 years ago. Nobody really knew what two-factor authentication is, especially not doctors. So we put it into the app, and then we had problems because nobody could get in. That was great.
Don't be afraid. I'm not going to throw it again. I've learned my lesson.
Do you think companies and CEO of the companies believe more qualitative interviews and research or quantitative research? And
That's a great question. The answer is the second one. They believe data more because data in the sense of quantitative data more because they feel it's impartial, which is not true. And it also, data like that answers to questions that we pose. And data can be very, very manipulated if we wanted to. And that's actually a shame, and it's something that I would like to change, is to give more focus also on the qualitative side, because there's where the juicy stuff lies. And somehow we're not happy with the juicy stuff. But that's what makes our products. That's what makes the user experience. And I really wish that we could do more of this, because it's very important. And as I said, it's the cheapest, the fastest, and the most useful to do.
thank you.
Any other questions?
I saw a hand in the back, still relevant, yeah?
Hi, Amedea. So my question would be, how much attention or worry do you put into the validity of the research that you do, especially if you lean towards qualitative? How important is it to get the right kind of conversation going with the right kind of users?
Mm-hmm.
And because there might be pitfalls there if you place too much attention on the wrong kinds of
Yes.
or kinds of interviews.
I agree. Of course, there has to be. You have to make sure you find the right user, or at least a very similar to them, or people who know about it. So in B2B apps and in enterprise UX, we deal sometimes with people that we don't have access to, and there are always proxies. And you go into that research knowing that this is not the person that you really, really want. But you get more information, especially in the beginning where you don't have any other data, than not doing that at all. So yes, you have to be mindful of who you are talking to, also what kind of answers are you getting out of. And what we're looking for is, in this conversation, I said we're looking for behaviors, we're looking for patterns, and we're looking for similar behaviors. And we're looking how we can make different groups of users. And many times during research, you realize there's a group that you have not think of, and that there's an opportunity there, or but that is it is important to be mindful of that. So you have to know that you're stepping into research that might not produce results. But if you have no idea who your user is, who your potential users are, then of course you have to go wide. And you will make assumptions, who are your users? And then once you start talking to people, patterns will emerge, just like in the quantitative data. You will see stuff that you didn't see before. You will be able to act on it. And I'm not saying that you should only do interviews. you should do all kinds of, you should do continuous product discovery, all through the life cycle of the product.
Here you go.
What?
You mentioned earlier that you've established a research practice within the company.
Yes.
And I wanted to know what would be your tips or how to go about setting up a research practice if you don't have it yet. Independent maybe, or maybe if there's differences in an early stage company and maybe towards, or an opposite towards an established company with a product already.
Okay. That's a great question. The answer is be very annoying about research. Well, product discovery. If they don't, like, if you try to present, if you try to get buy-in from management and they don't let you, go guerrilla. Go show them what you can get from qualitative research. Because it's the insights and the things that we find are those that change minds. For people who have never experienced well-done research, you will not convince them just by saying, hey, I think user interviews would be great. But you do them on the side, sometimes even outside your daily work. You bring back the insights, you tell them what are the results, you show them, and it might get easier. Depending on a company size, so you might be already, if you're in a later stage or your product is already out, yes, you can always start with data. Data is also useful. Start with Google Analytics, but then go and talk to people who use your product. Figure out why. I don't know. I just... it's the one thing that somehow, like I said, got a bad rap, but it's very, very useful and very, very impactful. But we need to show the results. So that would be my quick answer. I do have a longer one in store, maybe later.
All right, so we have time for one more question. And I'm going to take an executive decision and liberty to ask it. It's a trick question, so I hope you're ready. So what was the best question that you have ever asked, and what is the answer that you've received? This is that kind of a situation where you're very time constrained, and the development team only has the resources to ask a single question.
So development has if I would be talking to a stakeholder, for example, I would ask what are they most afraid of in terms of this project, for example. If I would be asking a user, probably one of the, so can you tell me about a really good experience of using either our product or a product that's similar to ours? Or how are you solving this problem now that we're looking for a design? But I can't tell you the answers because they're very different.
Wow, these are great answers, actually, much better than my initial question. But thank you.
It was a great question, though.
Thank you, Amedea. You were excellent. So please give it up for Amedea and the product discovery session.